Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs with Go Cloud Architects. How are you today? Super happy to have you here. I see there's already some folks in
Okay,
the
good
chat.
morning, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs.
In any case, we're super happy to have you here. Every Wednesday, what I try and do, if I have time, but I don't always have it, but I try so hard every Wednesday to come online and give you guys 2 hours to ask any type of cloud computing core questions you may have. If you desire to be a cloud architect, for example, and you want to know the path to get there, if you're confused with the difference between a cloud architect and a cloud engineer, we want to clarify that for you. If you're looking to learn, how to become a network architect, for example, or anything like this, these are the reasons we hold these sessions. We know that, cloud architects, for example, which is where we specialize, are a very in-demand field. I've been working as an architect now for over 25 years, and I've helped many, many people get their first tech jobs or get promoted in tech, and I love doing it. It's one of the best things in the world when someone actually calls you and says, Mike, guess what? I've got a job. I bought a house for my family, and all these things are such an exceptionally good experience, and that's why we do what we do. So we understand there's so much confusion. There's confusion between DevOps and architecture, and that's okay. We're here to clear it out. There's confusion on how do I build a certification portfolio to get hired. We know there's confusion related to what do I study, especially when you see some of these ambiguous job descriptions. So, the best way to determine what you should learn is actually ask the following. People that are working in that field, for example, actually working architects, as well as the hiring managers that hire them. And as an organization, here's what we did. In the beginning of my career, I literally asked 50 recruiters exactly what was the perfect employee. And I've asked hundreds, if not thousands, of hiring managers throughout my career, what do you want in the perfect employee? So any question that you actually may have, we'd love to hear from you on anything we can do to help boost your cloud computing career. Let me know. Now, I see there's a few people that have already said good morning and signed up, and let's make sure we say hello to them. Richard Rich, so happy you're here. Shirakant, and I hope I didn't get your name wrong. Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Do either of you have any questions to kick off the morning? Ask us any questions and let us know. Oh, Patrick, so happy to see you today. How are you doing today? Lenny, welcome. Good morning. Actually, I've been meaning to call you back. It's just been an extremely, extremely busy week, but we will sync up in the next several days. Thelica, so wonderful to have you here. I'll let you know. So thank you for doing these sessions. Is a cloud infrastructure architect the same as a cloud architect? What a great question, Richard Rich. And the answer is in some ways, yes, and in other ways, absolutely not. So here's the thing with an infrastructure architect. I would fall into the category of a cloud infrastructure architect in that, most of my life has been revolved around building the stuff that actually makes everything work, and that's the infrastructure. So what is the infrastructure? Infrastructure is the network, the routers, the switches, the cabling. Infrastructure is, for example, the servers, the load balancers, there's the firewalls. So that's typically speaking a cloud infrastructure architect, and that's me. Most of the CCIEs that you see moving to the cloud, and my CCIE number is 7417, I've done this for a long time. Most of us, for example, are infrastructure architects. Now, more of a cloud architect in general, like a generic cloud architect, would be someone that not only focuses on the infrastructure, but they also do a lot of work with, say, databases, for example, and they may also have a lot more input into the web applications and things and all the other pieces and components as opposed to just this. But architects, remember this, architects are system designers, meaning we meet with the client, we ask the right questions, and we design a system. After we design it, we turn it over to a team of cloud engineers to build it. We don't build it. We don't configure it. We don't code. What we do is design. So in much the same way an architect designs a building, when the architect designs the building, they say, okay, if the building's going to be 1,000 meters tall, and the building's going to have wind that goes at 75 miles an hour because it's in a hurricane area, what kind of strength do we need? How tall does the building have to be? What kind of strength do we need of the material? So they think about structure like steel and cement. And then they hand it over to a construction crew to build it. They don't build it. So guess what? Architects like me, architects that are cloud architects and solutions architects, we don't build, we design. and then we turn it over to a team of cloud engineers to go build it. So make sure if you want to be a great cloud architect, you have the design skills, because that is the job. Have that and you will be fantastic. So Richard Rich, I hope I answered your question. If you have subsequent questions, please let me know, because I want to make sure I answer it clearly for you. Felka, from the WinFun Cloud. Welcome here. What a wonderful group that is. That WinFun Cloud has such a group of such wonderful, wonderful people all pulling together to try and help each other out. And we absolutely love that. I had the opportunity to speak to that group in Belgium this last week, and I love it. My good friend Banjika kind of co-leads that group. And wow, I've got nothing but great things to say. And he just took an enterprise architect role, and I'm so happy for him. What a great guy, so well deserved. So welcome, Talcom. I'm so happy to have you here. Who else has some questions for me? Oh, you were there, Falcao. It was so wonderful having you there. I'll try and make sure I do another presentation in the next month or two. I'm always there anytime Banjiko calls me. Who has questions for me? Cloud J. What a great question. What would you say is the most important area of focus for someone completely new to tech or the cloud? You're interested in security, you think. Okay, Cloud J, that's a great question. So when someone is new to the tech or new to the cloud, I like to focus on what's called first principles. I believe that came from the ancient Greeks. I speak Greek at home, but more importantly, here's what I will tell you. When your foundation is strong, everything else becomes easy. So if you're going to build a big building, you need a strong foundation. When you're going to build a cloud computing career, guess what? You need a strong foundation too. So let's talk about what that strong foundation is. You know, there's all this mysticism around the cloud. It's this, it's that. Guess what? A cloud is a network and a data center that's just been virtualized. That is it. Really speaking, that is it. And I absolutely love the cloud. AWS, Azure, GCP, Cisco's cloud, Dell's cloud, IBM's cloud, they are truly transformational. Basically speaking, they're a network and a data center that's been virtualized. So because it's been virtualized, organizations don't have to purchase things, which can enable people in developing nations, for example, to have access to technology they may not have had access to otherwise. So because of this, cloud computing is truly transformational, which is why we love it so much. So, but if you really want to work on the cloud, what is it you're working on? You're working on a network and a data center. So where people go wrong is as follows. They want to work on the cloud. They hear the cloud pays well. They're excited by the cloud. And I encourage them to go to the cloud. Go to the cloud. Hundreds of thousands of jobs, and nobody can hire them because there's nobody that's even qualified to do the job. So study the cloud. You will do wonderfully. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. So learn the cloud. But what is the cloud? It's the network and the data center. And what does the cloud architect do? They take these things from the network and the data center, and they move the same things to the cloud. In fact, 90% probably of all cloud migrations are lift and shift, which is basically take a virtual machine in the data center and put it in a virtual machine on the cloud. Take your virtual machine, move it to the cloud. Take your data, store it. Nothing's changed. It's just you took it from an actual physical computer or a virtual machine in the data center to a virtual machine in the cloud. So learn the network and the data center. What do I mean by the network? I mean routing and switching. This means understand interior gateway protocols just to understand how they work. It understands BGP, which is an exterior gateway protocol. You're going to use it constantly. What other skill becomes super important? NAT to translate between IP addresses. And let me tell you, it's used for a whole lot more than just connecting to the internet. You need to understand VLANs, and I'll talk a little bit about VLANs in a minute because somebody asked the VLAN question. Then you need to understand trunking and .1Q tagging, and routing and routing tables and routing algorithms, at least the way they work. This is some of this. Now, IPsec is part of it. ARP is part of the process. DHCP or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, something to be learned. DNS, also some of the networking things. This is just a little, and well, of course, your IP addressing plan. I also understand VPN technologies and private line, direct connections, express route, whatever kind of term you want to use for it, all the same concept. Now, In the data center, what do you need to learn? Servers, server virtualization, containers, load balancer, firewalls, storage, all data center stuff, all the same things in the cloud. So, right, learn the network of the data center, you'll be good for the cloud. And here's the side bonus. Every time there's a new cloud feature, it's just old for if you study the foundations. Not yesterday, the day before that, AWS said, wow, we have a new thing that enables you to route between subnets in your VPC. And it's like, okay, great. And it will make things much better on the cloud. And it brings the cloud's performance closer to the data center. And we love this. But realize we did this 30 years ago on the network. So all these new and exciting things are really basically, is the cloud maturing enough to basically do the things in the network and the data center and the cloud almost as good. So be excited by these things. These are wonderful changes. Lots and lots and lots of good things are coming. So in order to learn the cloud, Cloud J, I want you to really focus on becoming really great at the cloud, which is the network and the data center. Now, you mentioned security. I strongly encourage you to stay in security. I think cloud security is one of the best options in the entire world for you. I love the cloud, so I don't want you to take this negatively, but the cloud is less secure than the data center. Here's why. In the data center, you can control all your entry points and exit points. And in the cloud, you can control the ones that your entry and exit points for the most part. And I'll explain what I mean. In the cloud and the data center, you need the same security, same firewalls, IDS systems, IPS systems, all of it. You need the same on both sides. Why is the cloud less secure then? Well, if I'm a hacker and I hack into the cloud, for example, I can now access every customer the cloud provider has. So the cloud is what you would call a high-value target. Hack into me at Go Cloud Careers and you get access to me and my students. Hack into AWS or Azure or GCP and you get access to all of their students. And mind you, Azure was just hacked last week. And so many, I think it was 50,000 of their customers' databases, their information was made public. So this is the kind of challenge I'm in with the cloud. So on the data center, you just have to worry about your stuff. On the cloud, you have to worry about you, and you still have to think about what happens with the cloud. And in the cloud, you don't have the ability to plug in these big, giant hardware firewalls and big, giant hardware IDS, IPS systems. So you got to go to the marketplace, and you got to put things on like EC2 instances or compute engine instances. And when you're doing things like this, you've changed the dynamic of what's going on in your organization. So a software-based firewall is not going to be as functional as a hardware-based firewall. The performance will be slower. So think of it this way. You're on the cloud. You need all the same security you need in the data center, but now you need the other factor. Now I'm going to tell you this. Cloud hacks happen every single day of the week. 16% of all attacks on the cloud actually come from misconfigured S3 buckets. So if you know what and the name of the service and how to configure it, you might be able to configure it, but you don't know what you need to configure. So these are really what we're talking about. We're talking about how to become great. And I strongly encourage cloud security architecture roles. I believe it's going to be one of the most 5 in-demand careers moving forward for the next 10 years, in my opinion, because security matters more. The more technology you put on the cloud, the better it has to be. So Shakrant has the question. Hi, Mike. My background is a bit of engineering, Master of Technology, and an MBA in e-business. Wow. What a heck of educational portfolio. That's great. You're working as a system business analysis for the past year, planning a career change. Okay, great. You're eager to learn and do multiple certifications. Which will you suggest to help me find a job and change career? Okay, these are really great questions. So, all questions in respect to cloud architect, preferred specialization in networking and security. Okay, great. So there's 2 things going on. Now, I also want you to understand networking versus security. You could spend your whole life, literally speaking, your entire life, and still have a lot more to learn about networking. I'm not joking. I spent 30 years in networking, and I know there's still so much more for me to learn in just networking. So if your goal is to learn networking first and security second, wouldn't really be my recommendation. My role would be learn a little networking now and then a whole heck of a lot about security. Without networking, for the most part, you don't have anything because nothing works without the network. But it's going to be almost near impossible to become an expert in both. So I would say pick one. You know, my CCIE number is 7417. Back when it was a 2-day test, literally speaking, about 20 some years ago. And here's what I'll tell you. After I finished my CCIE and then worked for about 5-10 years, then I realized, oh my God, there's still so much to learn. So my recommendation is to pick one. So that could be either becoming a cloud architect or a cloud security architect or a cloud infrastructure architect. I think you would be in either case. Now I'm going to tell you, it is not just secure. It's not just certifications, not at all. It's certifications, which give you 10% of the package, and it's the other 90%. What is that other 90%? It's knowledge of the network, the data center, and the cloud. It's knowledge of end-to-end system design. It's learning how to speak to the CEO and then 5 minutes later speaking to the engineering team. And then I'll talk about cloud engineer versus architect. I see that question pop out. So it's knowing that. It's presentation skills. It's business acumen, ROI modeling. It is literally understanding how to talk to someone, translate their technology into something. So if you have all the architect skills, and I got to tell you, I typically take my people that are certified, and then I spend basically 4 months teaching the cloud. And for people that are not certified and have no tech background whatsoever, I typically spend about 6 to 8 months to make them a cloud-ready architect. So it's kind of how long it typically takes. What certifications would be good for a cloud security portfolio? I would say the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, that'd be a good one. The CEH or CISSP or CCSP for security, and potentially a CCNA along with it. That'll give you some fundamentals in networking, which is always a good thing to have. And in addition to the fundamentals of networking, which you'll get out of the CCNA, the CEH, for example, out of the CCSP will give you a good security background. Marry that with the Certified Solution Architect Professional, and you should have a really, really good background and certification portfolio as well. So, okay, hope I made that clear for you. And I've got lots of questions here. Lenny Burnett, VLANs. Can I make an analogy to better understand this? Yeah, that's quite simple. So a switch. Let's say you've got a switch, and you know what? I happen to have one over here right with me right now. So let's say you've got a switch over here, and this is a Cisco Meraki network switch. So as you notice in this switch, for example, there's a whole lot of ports in it. What if I wanted to say, hold on, I can't see it. These ports, I want to be part of one virtual switch. These parts part of another virtual switch. These parts part of another virtual switch. So let's say I put the accounting people here and the finance people in these ports and the DevOps people over here and then the QA lab over here. If I did it in that way where I group my ports together and I were to virtualize a switch, meaning take the switch and chop it into multiple logical switches, that's what a VLAN is. So what a VLAN is you take your switch, you chop it down into multiple logical or virtual switches. So basically, let's say ports 1 to 12 go to one port, go to accounting, and ports 12 to 24 go to finance, and 36 to 48 go somewhere else. By doing this, guess what? You've got security isolation. So you took a switch and virtualized it 30 years ago. Guess what happened 20 years ago? You took a server and virtualized it. All old tech, all coming from networking, and that's how you build your career. Make sure you get a great background in the network and the data center, and you'll always know what to do. Minaj Kumar, you're from an Informatica ETL background. Okay, that's great. That means big data to us. You've cleared Solution Architect Associate and are thinking, what next in AWS? Can I advise you what would be good? So Minaj Kumar, I am thrilled to answer your question, but I don't know what you like. Do you want to be in front of people? Do you want to be doing lots of presentations? Do you want to work pre-sales? If the answer is yes, that's architecture, and I can give you some guidance. If you love that software development side and you want to stay on the software development side, you may want to be in the DevOps world. So if you tell me exactly what it is you like, I can tell you how to get there, but I need to know exactly what you like, because I don't want to just give you guidance for my own hobbies or my own careers. So please let me know. And then after that, I will definitely answer you that question for you. The next question is from Shurkant. Is there a possibility you can work as a freelancer for US companies in India? The answer is absolutely yes. I recently turned down a position because I obviously can't do any more work. I'm running a company, but somebody wanted me to be an architect for a company in Japan, remote from the US. And I called my friend Nagaraja in India and said, hey, by the way, do you want this job? And he's like, well, I already have one. Maybe I'll share it with you. So the answer is yes, you can be in India and work for some other countries, companies in other countries. Absolutely. Now, they may actually modify the pay that they pay you. Some companies, when you don't live in the US, they give you a lower rate, but some don't. So that'll be up to the job. But definitely, you should be in good shape. Arun Awari, you're a CCI routing and switching. Fantastic. So am I. My number is 7417. That's how long it's been for me. Would like to enter the cloud. What options do you have? Okay, Arun, you are in really, really, really great shape. So the original cloud, the original CCIEs, the CCIEs in routing and switching have a very easy time transitioning into the cloud. I even have about a dozen CCI students. Here's the thing. Depending upon what you did as a CCIE, if you were in an architectural role where you were doing end-to-end system design and you were presenting to your customers every single day and you were meeting with the CXOs and you were doing OI modeling and showing them that, for example, the $20 million spend on this network gear is going to give them $40 million a year in return on investment, then you're already in the position. Now, if you don't have that, here's what you need to do. You need to work on emotional intelligence training because this is a leadership role. You need to work on executive communication because it's a leadership role. You need to work on executive presence training because this is a leadership role. You need to basically focus on presentations and writing for executives as well as technology professionals. Then if you were like me and you started with routing and switching, for example, I spent 10,000 hours doing nothing other than BGP. Now what? Now you got to learn the data center, which you may or may not know. So it depends what you've done as a CCI. So if you were a CCI like me that just did routing and nothing other than routing, then you're going to have to learn servers like I had to do. You're going to have to learn firewalls, which, when I became a security architect, I learned firewalls, IDS, IPS systems. You may already know these things. Obviously, you're good with packet filtering. Obviously, you're good with VLANs. Obviously, you're good with trunking. Obviously, you're good with NAT, so we don't have to worry about anything. Obviously, you're going to know BGP. And if you haven't used it in a while, make sure you brush up on it, specifically the use of just traffic engineering, basic stuff. It's less complicated than the kind of things many of us CCIEs did. And then get used to virtual machines and containers, which you may already be. And then in your case, I'd probably just get the Certified Solution Architect Professional because that's kind of like your minimum entry-level cert, although with a CCIE, you probably don't even need it. I know lots of CCIEs working at all the big carriers that have no certifications and do great other than their CCIE because it's so valuable. So Arun, I think you're in great shape. That would be my recommendation. If you are not sure where to get that business acumen or communications or executive presence training and you don't know what I mean, we could absolutely help you with our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which Chris has posted the link to. He can post from my team a link to it again. That would obviously get you there very quickly. Salka, what's your next? When I look at your question, it says, what is CDP 20% off? My associate Chris from my team posted a link to our training program, and that was a coupon code for 20% off. Alfonso Fortunato, what a great question. And I'm so glad you asked this. I made a video about it recently because it's such an important issue. A cloud architect is a system designer, meaning they design an end-to-end solution. The process starts with the customer. What are the customer's business goals? What are the customer's challenges? What are they trying to achieve? What are the customer's competitors doing? How can you use technology to help that customer? That's what the architect does. Then after that, the architect will either bring a team of engineers to baseline the current systems or baseline the systems themselves or ask a bunch of questions. The architect will then design a solution, and that is it. So the architects do not configure, the architects do not code, The architects design, 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 and design. Now, the cloud engineer is very different. The cloud engineer builds it. So after I design my thing and I hand this document over to the customer and they say, yes, I want this, then the cloud engineer builds it. So the cloud engineer is going to be behind the computer. The cloud engineer is going to be configuring things. They're going to use the CLI, the management consoles, the APIs. The cloud engineer might do some scripting. The cloud engineer is going to be behind that computer all day. The cloud engineer is a builder. So let's go over the careers. We cloud architect design it. As soon as the design is done, we hand it to cloud engineers to build it. When the cloud engineers completed building it, they hand it to the maintenance people. Do you know who the maintenance people are? They're the sysops people. They're the maintenance people. So now you know these basic careers. Now there also is this great career called Devops. And Devops is basically automating software release cycles. And then, helping to build and configure containers, those DevOps engineers do, because they can do things in an automated way, which is helpful in the building side. But DevOps is about software. So DevOps professionals need to be good programmers long before they can think about software. Someone can't just take a DevOps Pro exam and get a DevOps job, because you need to know software development for DevOps people. Likewise, SysOps people are system maintenance people. Maintenance is maintenance, and they're going to script, they're going to code, they're going to automate. Cloud engineers, again, behind that computer all day long. These are the really smart people that know everything about a service, but they're stuck behind a computer all day long. Engineers, because they're stuck behind the computer, will probably earn half of the cloud architect. Why? Because the cloud architect is out there with the customer. They're the hunter. They're bringing in revenue for the company. They design it, the customer buys it, and guess what happens after that? The company earns something. So, because the company earns something, people in the architecture roles get paid a lot more. And let's talk about architecture roles for a minute, and then I'll go to KKR Kotha. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the most technical person in the world, which is the cloud engineer. Most technical, also lowest paid. One step up in terms of pay scale is the solution architect. The solution architect is basically a systems designer on a cloud. I only know how to design AWS solutions, or I only know how to design Azure solutions. That's a solution architect. As we move up the roles, we get a little bit less technical and we get a little more business oriented. We've got the cloud architect, which is one step above, at least in terms of pay, the solution architect. And what does the cloud architect do? They design that same end-to-end solution the solution architect would do, but they do it better, because they'll basically say, okay, Mr. Customer, let's give you an Openstack Ansible cloud in your data center, and let's connect that to the AWS cloud and the Azure cloud. And heck, maybe we'll even connect it to Google, because theoretically they have better AI ML capabilities. So you can connect to multiple clouds and have things automated for the best service. So the cloud architect knows all the clouds and how to make them work. Now guess what? One level above that in terms of pay is the enterprise architect. And that's something I held for years. The enterprise architect is going to be even less technical, but they're going to have a lot more business acumen, a lot more skills, a lot more executive presence, and they're going to earn a lot more because of it, because they're going to be seen as the transformational leader. So now I hope I answered your question. What is the difference between a cloud engineer and a cloud architect? So KKR Kotha, sir, you're currently working as an AWS trainer, and you have a CLF certification. I don't know what CLF is. And I say this because there are 1,000 acronyms for different certifications, and they all can mean the same thing. So if you could tell me what you mean by CLF and what you've actually done. Working as an AWS trainer, as a rule, would probably not qualify someone to actually be an architect. And here's the reason why. When I look at the training, for example, that the AWS training provides, it's for the most part, what is the name of a service and how to configure it? What is S3? And how to configure it. What is an EC2 instance and how to configure it. Now, here's the part of that. Architects don't configure. And the name of the service is almost irrelevant to the architect. How to design it is what's relevant for the architect. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to meet with a client and you're going to ask them about their 15,000 servers that they have, and their 3 petabytes of data, and their 40,000 subnets, and there are 20,000 users that come in on VPNs, and then some. That's the job of the architect. Now, in this AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional training, there's no architecture. It's just the name of the service and how to configure it. So the training that's being produced by for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Professional, it's all built for cloud engineers. So if you want to be a cloud engineer and you're a certified solution architect professional and you actually know the things, the data center and the cloud and the network, you're going to be great. But if you just are teaching like the certified solution architect professional in terms of the name of the service and how to configure it, there's actually no part of architecture there. Now, if you want to see if you're ready to get hired, KKR Kotha, you can actually take our Cloud Architect Career Challenge, where we'll invite you. And on this challenge, Chris will provide a link for this from my team. And we'll give you a scenario. And on the free ones, I do very basic scenarios. And typically speaking, I can bring in 1,000 people I can bring in, let's say there's 30 AWS certified people. You bring them in together. They ask a bunch of questions for about a half an hour. They try to do the architecture. Sometimes you get somebody that knows, and other times my students typically help them out, and everybody learns. And they know by the end of this call, are you ready to be hired? Now, if you're saying AWS Cloud Foundation certificate KKR Kotha, I would say that's definitely not enough. I'm going to say that even the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional without the rest of the training is not enough on its own. When I take people in with a certification, regardless of what that certification is, I train them. And I've interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people that did not have architecture training before I actually launched this company. I mean, I've been coaching people for decades. And what happened is I bought every single AWS course that you could find, all the major ones. And then I interviewed 1,000 people that were AWS certified, and I couldn't hire a single one. And I couldn't hire a single person for the following reasons. No one knew architecture a bunch, as well as, in addition to not knowing architecture, no one really understood storage or servers or any of it. All they knew was the name of the service and how to configure it. And I can't hire someone to do design. And that upset me so bad. That's why we provided completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate training, AWS Certified Professional training, and AWS Advanced Networking training. And it's free in the description below, so please get it. Because the training was so far off from the actual job. Now, when you do those trainings, that gives you about 10 to 15% of the world of the cloud architect, which is better than the 10% you'd actually get on your own. So what I would actually say is, that's what's necessary. Get knowledgeable of the network, knowledgeable in the data center. Minimum level certification is the Certified Solution Architect Professional. And if you don't actually have any background in tech, that's still not enough. We typically need to take you, figure out your actual goal, and get you an industry-related certification. So if you say, I find cloud networking interesting, we'd say, okay, great, get a CCNP and a Certified Solution Architect Professional. Or I find cloud databases interesting. Okay, great, get the Certified Solution Architect Professional and something from Oracle. So if you actually tell me your ultimate goal, KKR Kotha, I'm actually happy to help guide you. I just need to know your goal career. Manu Reddy, thank you so much. We're thrilled to have you here. Realistically speaking, very happy to have you here, and anything we can do to help the community. I've been an architect now for almost 30 years, and I've loved every moment of it. I truly, truly loved it. And what I found is it saddened me that there's job descriptions and people are studying everything unrelated to architecture other than architecture. So that's why I do this. I want to make sure that you guys can get the jobs you want when you want them. Shazed, hello, sir. Can you please tell me if you need to learn tools like Docker or Chef to become a cloud engineer and a programming language? Well, to be a cloud engineer, here's what I'm going to tell you. You're going to need to know some coding, specifically Python, most likely, and possibly more. To be a cloud engineer, you may actually have to use things like Docker, because you're going to be creating containers, even though it's mostly DevOps, but you could be doing it as a cloud engineer. And Chef probably would be good to know. So when you're dealing with architects, these are not valid skills, because in architects, we're designing. But if you want to be an engineer, you're going to need to know all that stuff, because as an engineer, you're going to do it. Now, still, my recommendation as an engineer to pick one thing and be great at it. Be great at the network, a cloud network engineer, be great at security. And that way you're not constantly trying to learn a million things that are, and I say this for the reason, the bigger and deeper your strength is on any one topic, the more you're going to be paid. And the faster your career will rise. If you're really great at one thing, you're really great at one thing. So I highly recommend that. I hope I answered your question. Next question is from Shaifa. Sir, how can a fresher get into product-based companies like Amazon, Oracle, or the Role of Computing AWS? Well, one of my students recently did this. He was with me for 3 weeks, and now he's working at AWS. He's a really great guy and a really smart guy. So, but that is typically atypical. The way you get into a product-based company is you develop the right skills, and then you use the right combinations. So one of the things I can say about Amazon, they're willing to hire people with no experience all the time. Here's how you know. If a company is willing to bring someone in for an interview with no experience, they're willing to bring them in because they're willing to hire them. Most people don't get the life of us hiring managers. We are so busy. When I say busy, I mean busy. Thousands of emails per day, hundreds of phone calls per day. We're working 16 to 20 hours a day, every day. Now, we're doing this, and now we got to go interview people because basically speaking, we've got work that can't be done, and that's why we're working 20 hours a day. So we need somebody. So if we bring in somebody for an interview, it's because we think we might be able to hire them. Now, okay, so next up. Now, if we interview someone and they're new and they don't do well on the interview, either we don't like their attitude, we don't like their communication skills, we don't like their presence, we don't like something, or we don't like their technical capabilities, then it's, I'm sorry, sir or ma'am, you just need to come back when you get experience. None of us hiring managers want to say, I'm sorry, you're not competent, or you're not capable, or you're just not good enough. We all feel horrible about that. So if we interview someone and they don't know something, the answer is come back with some experience. So how can a fresher like you get into a product-based company? You have to do it the way I've worked with all the last freshers for the last 20 years. First, you have to be great. And what I mean by great is you have to be technically competent, really strong. Because as a younger person, typically out of school, you've got some things working against you. One is your age. With age, the assumption is you have less knowledge, less experience, less wisdom. So you got to carry yourself like you're 40. And that's what I did when I was in my 20s and I got my first tech job. I carried myself like I was 40. So you've got to look, walk, and talk like an executive. Then you've got to be so deep in your knowledge that when somebody interviews you, they're like, oh my God, look at this young person. They're a fireball full of energy, and look at that incredible capabilities. When you've got those capabilities, awesome. And when the capabilities actually mix and match with skill, the right communication skills, you'll be in good shape. So we have a training program that's about 16 weeks, although for a fresher, it's probably about 6 months. And, we take people, we teach them the network, we teach them the data center, we teach them the cloud, we teach them how to speak, how to write, how to interview, how to present to executives, how to do all these things. And our students are wildly successful in this program. So, our Cloud Architect Career Development Program does that, but you must be both business, communications, and technical. See, what most people don't know is we hiring managers grade people not just on their certs or their technical abilities, it's everything. 50% of your interview score when we interview is related to technical competency. Now, guess what? The other 50% is related to your attitude, your energy, enthusiasm, passion, interview skills. When you poll hiring managers and say, what do you want in the perfect employee? Here's what they tell you. I want someone that's technically competent. I want someone that I can trust. So when you go on a job interview, somebody asks you a technical question and you don't know the answer, don't lie. Just tell them you don't know, but put into the things you do know. Next thing that they want are people that are safe. Do you know what you know? Do you know what you don't know? So you don't start taking down the network or the data center or the cloud by making mistakes. Then organizations look for energetic and enthusiastic people. But seriously, who do you want? Someone that loves the tech and wants to be here, or someone that's not interested? Now, when you're done that, what else do they want? Can you bring out the best in others? That's your emotional intelligence, and they need this. After that, are you a team player? Because here's the reality. Well, I love the movie Rambo. Guess what? There's no Rambos in real life. Even the SEALs have a team. There's no Rambos. So what do I mean by that? A guy like me, a cloud infrastructure architect, is going to be on a team with some generic cloud architects, with some cloud security architects that are going to be on the team with some cloud IAM architects. And yes, that's different security, some cloud database architects. You're going to have some cloud engineers on your team. You're going to have some sysops people, Devops people. You're going to have a team full of 30, 40 people in some cases, sometimes bigger. So be great at what you do and work in a team. Now, the last thing employers care about is, will you go above and beyond when they need you? And if you can show that in an interview, you'll be hired. You've got to get all those things in there. So I hope I answered your question. So, Bad Weather Freak, you want to do cybersecurity for the cloud? I think that is an absolutely great program. And while I'm answering your question, does the pro take with zero experience to get them job ready into the cloud? Yeah, that's the whole point of my program, Bad Weather Freak. Whether someone's certified, I'm going to still have to train them because the certification really isn't related to the job. Now, if someone has no background, doesn't matter to me, I can build the background. As long as a person has the good attitude and the energy, enthusiasm, and passion to learn, I can do it. It's no big deal. Typically speaking, for someone that's got no tech background, it's about 6 to 8 months of my program, which is about 500 hours of training in order to get their first job. But, we provide that training. We provide that interview training. We provide all the business communication skills, the technical communication skills, everything necessary to be hired. So this is kind of what we do in our program. So yes, we can absolutely help you with that if you desire, and would love to work with you. Now, for those of you that are typing using acronyms, please use plain words. Acronyms mean a lot of different things. I can give you 15 different answers to everything when you say DSA, for example, or PBC, or .1, anything. So please, in your life as an architect, please communicate in full words and actual sentences. I'm happy to answer people's questions, but if you're using an acronym, because I've been in the industry too long, I'm not going to know what you mean. Because for every acronym somebody shows me, I'm going to think it can mean at least 15 to 25 different things based upon all the things that I've seen these acronyms used for. So when you're doing cloud architect writing or putting on your resume, no acronyms, please. That's going to keep you from getting hired. And Bad Weather Freak, the program is the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. That's the only program. Most of the rest of those things are really like a 1-hour consult asking me a question. So that's why I try and do as many free things as I can, because I don't have a lot of time to actually do private calls. But at the same time, my time is expensive, so I try to make sure that people get as much access to the free training. But Bad Weather Freak, the program is the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Chris from my team will provide a link to that program along with a 20% coupon again to make sure that you have access to it. Next question from Prasad is, can I provide the roadmap to become a cloud architect? Absolutely. First thing, learn the network. Next, learn the data center. After that, learn the functional equivalent services on the cloud. Then build excellent communication skills, excellent writing skills, excellent business acumen, because you're going to have to do ROI modeling. You're going to have to learn how to become CXO relevant. So when you speak to the chief information officer, the chief technology officer, the CEO, you can convince them that they need your stuff. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good your designs are. But at the same time, you're going to have to know the business acumen, because you have to do this. You're going to have to ask the customer their business goals, their challenges, their pain points. And then you're going to have to craft a technology solution to do it. So your world as an architect is pretty much like the tech translator, meaning translate executive business requirements into technology things, and translating what your super smart engineers say to something you can actually present to the executive, because the executives have a different concern, a different frame of reference. So that's what we're talking about. And I'm happy to give you much, much, much more of that if you tell me your actual background, Prasad, and because then I can give you guidance as to which certifications to get and how to get there. So I just need to know a little more. Shafaya, is it necessary to have data structure and algorithm knowledge I don't know what you mean by DSA, because DSA has got about 15 million different rationales. But as a rule, it depends what jobs you're actually looking for. If you're looking for an architect role, you're not going to be dealing with algorithms at all. If you're looking for a data scientist role, yeah, algorithms are going to be pretty important to you, as is data structure, as is data analysis. So if you tell me exactly the kind of role you actually want, then I can give you an answer. But I want to be clear on the role, because you've got to, what do you call it? You've got multiple things like QNS and DSA, all kinds of abbreviations that could mean literally 10, 20 different things. And I don't want to make confusion. The first time I learned not to use abbreviations when I was practicing medicine 24 years ago. And they said, stop using abbreviations like MSO4 for morphine sulfate, for example. And what would happen is we'd all use our expressions, and then other doctors and nurses would think it meant something else. They would then prescribe medication based on somebody else's wrong, for example, wrong acronym, and then people will die. So that's why I have such an aversion to this. Plus, to acronyms. Plus, the other reason is I'm going to tell you this: people tend to never know what people mean when they do these things. So as an architect, make sure you're very clear in actually spelling words. And if you want to tell me, I would love to help you. It's just that I know DSA to be about 10 different things, and QNS to be multiple different things as well. So I need to know exactly what you mean by that. And so please let me know. I'm in plain words, and I will be thrilled to answer your question. Shrikant, we'd love to work with you. And as part of the course, we basically have some questionnaires you fill in based upon the things you love. We help you design the roadmap, everything from the learning plans. The way we do it while we're at it, I don't typically like to talk about a company, but you asked the question, is twice per week we actually have live instruction for about 3 hours where I teach architecture. And the students have a ball on this. They ask me questions about my business goals, and they design something. And my students work on architectures that are unbelievable. 40,000 remote subnets, 20,000 remote locations, hundreds of thousands of servers. My students work on the biggest things, and my students know how to design it on at least every cloud that's out there. So my students on every architecture designer for AWS, and I almost always make them pick an architecture on another cloud as well. The world for the cloud architect is knowing multiple clouds and never getting pinned down and advising your customers. So we do everything we can to make sure that you're in a position to be the best advisor to your customer. Hope I can help you with that. The next question, Bad Weather Freak. What do you think realistic starting salary after finishing your program? It varies completely per state. The average salary of a cloud architect is approximately $600 a day. A good cloud architect or an experienced one easily earns double that, easily $1,200 to $1,500 a day if you're experienced like me. But in the beginning, 600 is average. I will say the last few cloud architects out of my program that have been hired that didn't have experience were earning about 100 to 120,000 US dollars per year, whether they be in the UK, the US, or Canada. That's about an average for new graduates with no tech background. So I hope I answered your question there, Bad Weather Freak. But you know what affects salary more than anything else? Your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your communication skills. About 25 years ago, I had a manager that said, do you know the difference between a $100,000 engineer mic and a $300,000 engineer mic? And I was like, no, but I need to. And he said, communication skills, executive presence, je ne sais quoi. He said, would you like to go to management training? And I said, yes. So between Cisco and me, there was a total about of $250,000 spent on leadership skills, communication skills. And let me tell you, training that actually literally paid for itself within about a year. And it impacted my salary for the rest of my life. So that's why I teach these critical skills so much. They're that important. They will double your salary. They'll get you hired when you're really not ready for the job. They'll convince managers they need to hire you, and with the right training then, like we provide, then you actually know how to do the job too. So you got to get those communication skills. They are so important. For example, they'll help you in many ways. As Ashraf, wow. I'm so happy to actually see you. I know where you're at. It's really hard for you to get internet access, but you are a super, super, super bright young man. So let's see what kind of questions you have. The name Martial Arts. You hear it from me many times, but you don't understand. Okay. So, as Ashraf, you hear me talking about martial arts all the time. I am a very experienced martial artist. I don't do it these days because I basically had a foot and a hand that was shattered. I couldn't walk for a couple of years, left me with this goofy twitch, but it's part of life. But I couldn't use my left hand, couldn't use my left foot. But martial arts is a complex word. It's like boxing is a martial arts, karate is a martial art, jiu-jitsu is a martial art, Israeli Krav Maga is a martial art, Kempo is a martial art, Russian Sistema is a martial art, as is Russian Sambo. So martial arts are combat warrior arts, typically speaking. So that's what I mean by that. So the next question. Bad weather freak, you have management experience in the medical field. That's a great one. I used to practice medicine before I went into tech. Let me tell you, people from the healthcare field are always advantaged. And this is going to sound really crazy, but why aren't medical people so advantaged? When we're dealing with healthcare, they teach us therapeutic communication, which is emotional intelligence and empathy. As medical people, we are in a constant fight. Get our patients, for example, needs covered and fighting with insurance companies. The next thing we might be doing is dealing with patients that are unhappy because sick people are just not happy. And then we have patients to deal with and their family members because the patients have been bounced around in the system for long periods of time. And then we have things that are just not available to our patient because they're considered experimental treatments. So anytime you're in healthcare, you are forced to do so much consulting, so much advocating work for your patients that guess what? It's a great background. So I think you got a great space there. So, Abhay, what's my perception towards B-Tech CS? Please let me know what you mean by B-Tech in parentheses CS. I don't know what you mean. What is CS? Tell me what you mean by CS, and I'm happy to answer your question. I'm not trying to be difficult. CS could be cloud security. CF could be cough syrup. I just really have no idea what you mean. CS could be computer science. So if you let me know, I would love to answer that question. Oh, computer science. Okay, great. So what is my perception towards computer science? Do you mean as an educational program and skill, or do you mean computer science in general? Let me know, Abhay. Customer service, bad weather freak. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Abhay to tell me exactly what he means, is a very good background for the same reasons. And while we're waiting, Manu Reddy asked a really great question. Does someone need to start as an engineer and then move to an architect role, or someone just wrote, well, here's the thing. Engineering does this. Architecture does this. So, when you're training to be an engineer, you're training for an entirely different career than actual architecture. I will say that if you have an engineering background where you're a little more technical, it will help you as an architect. Having said that, the other problem is as follows. When you're a really great engineer, people generally won't let you become an architect. So what happens is, as an engineer, you get, like in the movies, they would call it typecast. Like, for example, you deal with the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the Sylvester Stallones, and you just picture them in action movies, and for the most part, that's all you can imagine in your head. They can do anything, but you just picture action movies because that's all you've seen. So that's what happens when you're a really great engineer. In fact, I'll give you a personal example. In 2001, I was working for a highly innovative tech company prior to joining Cisco. And I was doing all this leadership work, and there was a position open for the director of systems engineering, and I was a principal architect at the time. And I called the VP, and I said, I'd like this job. And the VP calls me back, and he says, Mike, I wish I could hire you for it. He says, you're a great leader. He says, people love you. He said, you always know what to do. He said, but I can't. And I said, what do you mean you can't? He said, you're so good in your job that if I lose you, 20% of the revenue that's coming into this company won't go to you. I can't lose you at all. He said, so, and I asked him, I said, are what you're telling me is that I've been such a good engineer and architect over the years that I can't be promoted? And the manager said, yes. So if you're an engineer, the world is going to see you as an engineer. And not me. I love engineers. I was an engineer. But the world seems to believe in their head that we engineers don't have communication skills, that we don't have executive presence, that we're miserable to be around, that we're cranky. So if that's the perception, if you're going to be an engineer, you're going to have to overcome the perception. And for me, how did I get out of engineering? I got to tell you what I did. I pretended not to know about engineering. I started wearing suits instead of other clothes. I started to act like the sales guys and girls. I started to act like the company executives, and the next thing I realized, I was an engineer. I was an architect. But you know, I when I wanted these roles, they weren't open to me until I actually pretended to be less of an engineer and more of an architect. So if you can start an architect role first, I would do it. It'll save you years in your career. It'll save you from being typecasted. So I would study to become an architect. And in the process of being an architect, architects don't configure, but learn how to configure along the way when you become an architect. And that way, the first job you have to take as a cloud engineer, do it. Although I would generally say sometimes the first engineer you could do would be like a solution architect job, which is kind of that hybrid between an engineer and an architect. Still more architecture, but that would be a good first talk. A lot of my graduates become solution architects as their first job, if they're not quite ready for a cloud architect role, because maybe they lack the executive presence, or they're more hands-on, or they've got a heavy engineering background, or they've got no background, but they're real good at configuring and less good at the end-to-end design. So solution architects could be a first role, and that's typically a good spot. Hope I answered your question there, man. You're ready. Now, Abhay Singhal, I know exactly what you mean. So what do I think of studying computer science? I think getting a degree is fantastic. Why do I think a degree is fantastic? It shows the world that you have the discipline to get through the degree. Hopefully they teach you how to learn and research things. Hopefully you learn a little writing and presentation skills. Now, what's the bad news about college degrees? And I've got multiple. I never learned anything in school that was truly related to my job. In school, they give you foundations and fundamentals, which is helpful. The better your foundation, the better off you'll be. And, you know, there's lots of writing projects and things, which again are very helpful to your career. Now, I'm going to say that. But I'll say, you know, for the most part, what I learned in school is almost irrelevant to what I actually do in the job. So, do I recommend you get a degree? Yes. Is a degree in computer science helpful? Yes. I might get a bachelor's degree in computer science, and I might get an MBA later. I probably wouldn't get any master's degrees in technology because I don't see the benefit. I'd see more benefit in getting really strong, become an expert at something, and then get some real certifications after you're done. Certified Solution Architect Professional, or the CCIE, or the CEH with practice. Get some real heavy-duty ones and combine them, and get your college degree, and then you've got a great tech career. And after that degree, typically speaking, I think the best return on investment capital, meaning if you spend a certain amount of money, you want to, on your education, you'd like to get a certain amount of results back. I think the MBA is probably your next best thing after your bachelor's degree. That's typically what I would do. Bad Weather Freak, does our program work? The coupons on 3 payments? Absolutely. So for people that want to access the payment plan, here's what they need to do. They go to our website and you click the link that Chris provided everybody. When they click that link and they're on our page, it says $9.99 in purchase. In the white box that says $9.99, if you click that box, it will drop something for a payment plan. And of course, the coupon codes will be valid on every single payment. The payment plan's like a contract. You either pay once or you sign up with the payment plan and it bills you 3 payments, either way. But no matter what, we would never provide a coupon that would not be good on every single payment. You know, our goal is to do this, is to enhance people's careers in a way that's as cheap as possible. The average cloud architect earns about $600 a day. And, you know, here's the thing. If we can get somebody a job 2 days sooner, we paid for ourselves completely. If we get a job for somebody 6 months sooner, which is more likely, we've made about $70,000 for our students, and that makes us excited. People that train emotional intelligence on average earn $29.6 thousand more per year than someone that doesn't. We train emotional intelligence heavy for that reason, because it helps you get hired, but it helps you earn more. So, that impact can make about $1 million impact in someone's career over 30 years using average statistics. So we're intentionally very cheap. Look, we could charge $20,000 for this course and I could fill it with students. It's not a problem. Students call me 24 hours a day, or potential people. That's not the issue. The issue is making sure that students graduate and get hired and that we have the least impact on people's lives. I don't need to work. I had a great architecture career. I invested wisely, but I run this company and I love running this company. And that's really important to me because I love, when people tell me they get hired. So that's why we do what we do, and you'll be in great shape. Great shape if you do things. So, a bad weather freak out. Making $55,000 a year in technology is literally nothing. Making $300,000 a year in technology is no big deal after a couple of years of technology experience. So that's not an issue. But what's the difference between that $100,000 engineer and that $300,000 engineer? Depth of knowledge and communication skills, exact presence, emotional intelligence. How well can you really command a room? That's the secret. Thalka, as an SA certified, wanting to take the professional, what do I recommend? Should I complete the professional? Thalka, I'm going to be honest. I know you come from my friend's group. Unless you have 20 years of experience or a Cisco certified internet expert, it's almost impossible to get a job as the certified solution architect associate. So passing the certified solution architect professional without architecture training is still going to be really challenging, but almost impossible with the certified solution architect associate, possible with the certified solution architect professional. Now, Thalka, certified solution architect professional plus knowledge of the network, plus knowledge of the data center, plus the executive communication skills, the presence skills. That, you've got something, provided you learn architecture, getting the network in the data center. So I wouldn't even apply for jobs until I did those things, because it's just going to be frustrating, because you need to be able to do this thing. So certified solution architect professional and for example, these are the kind of things that I would strongly recommend. Okay, so Manu, I think I already answered your question when we talked about cloud architect versus cloud engineer. So the next question is, if you want to be training for cloud architect roles, what about your listing Devops? So here's the thing. Devops is one career. Architecture is another career. If I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, meaning somebody that basically works on the brain and the spinal cord, I wouldn't study how to be a surgeon on the feet or a podiatrist. If I wanted to be a race car driver, I would not learn how to be an airplane pilot. So while I love DevOps, and I think it's great, and you should know as an architect what is DevOps and a little concept of the CI/CD process, if you study DevOps to be an architect, you're not going to be employable as an architect. You're going to have somebody else's skill sets. And when you apply for architecture roles, they're not going to view you as an architect either. So if you want to be an architect, study architecture. If you want to be a DevOps engineer, study DevOps engineering, but train for the job you want, not somebody else's job, and that's really going to be the key to success. If you've got more questions on that, please let me know, Manu. Falca will definitely set up the time to speak with you. And no, I would say that Chris from my team can set up a meeting. I actually have a little bit of time after this call today, if you desire to speak. And the reason I can do this, which I don't normally have all this time, is we're doing some really exciting things around here. We're playing with tech, so I kind of canceled all meetings. So if you've got a question, please feel free to call, and I'd love to speak with you, Thalka. Anybody that's a friend of Banjica's or a student of Banjica's, I'm always thrilled to speak to. I dropped our company's phone number there. So same thing for you. Adia. Also, you can, for example, you can still call that same number after this call, and we'd love to speak to you. GP, how about SAP HANA? We teach cloud architects in this program. SAP is an entirely different career. So we don't teach SAP HANA. If we were in the SAP world, we would be doing an SAP world. We're in the architecture world, designing a system from end to end, so we don't do that. Now, when we do have students that want to focus on big data, they can still study that SAP while we teach the cloud, and that focuses on a brilliant cloud architect program. I've got a really great student of mine, Praveen, that's a very good big data person, huge big data person with 20 years of database experience. So that makes things look really, really great. But we build cloud architects. And for people that want to do data, we build a plan for them to be big data architects and strongly, strongly encourage it. But we don't teach SAP. That's a totally different career. Hope I answered your question. Okay, I see a pretty good question from Praveen. Today you have an interview for us, AWS Solution Architect Big Data. Good, great job for you. If you're the Praveen, I think you are. Could I please articulate the answer of this question? Could you please explain security strategy while designing big data solutions? So, great question. Security strategy for big data solutions, little data solutions, or for the most part, everything is pretty much the same. At the perimeter of your network, you block it with a firewall. They keep bad guys out. Behind the firewall, you have an IDS IPS system. Now, behind the IDS IPS system, what do? You use access control as to basically keep traffic out of your subnets. Now, what else do you do? How do you keep traffic out of your servers? Well, you can use, at least in AWS, you can use security group, but the servers themselves, you got to lock them down. So you lock them down by disabling unnecessary services. What else do? You patch them for the latest vulnerabilities. You put a host-based firewall on it in case something breaches. Actually, your your firewall, your IDS IPS system, your network ACLs, and so your security groups. And you put some anti-malware protection as well on these things. So that's typically how you do these things. You add a really strong IAM policy to make sure that people and systems that can get on the network are only the ones they're supposed to. You encrypt all your data. And anytime you're aggregating or pulling in data from external sources, firewall them off. Use a zero trust environment. So Praveen, that's exactly how I would answer that question. If you've got a subsequent question, I'm thrilled to answer it for you, though. Also, you can also talk about monitoring, logging functions, and Lambda functions to remediate things that are found in logging functions. But realistically speaking, that's how you secure an environment. Praveen, if you've got a little more questions on that, I'd love to answer it, but that's how I would do this particular question. But if you've got another question for the interview today, feel free to ask it. Who else has a question? Yeah, Praveen, it's pretty interesting. I was actually speaking to a good friend last night that was an actual security architect like me, because I was a security architect for a while. And he says, do people know that you just secure the cloud the same way as you secure the enterprise? And I said, I don't think so. I said, because all the cloud vendors are talking about all these services, and And I said, there's so much complexity. I said, when you strip out all the names and the marketing branding, you're left with the technology. So do it the same way as you did before, and you'll be good to go. Okay, man, you ready? Excellent question. Here's are the skills of a good DevOps engineer. First and foremost, you should be an extraordinarily good programmer. Then, as a DevOps engineer, you need to learn the following. You need to learn Git and Jenkins and Spinnaker and Chef and Puppet and all these other kinds of weird DevOps tools. That's what you learn as a DevOps engineer. All software and all automating software release cycles. Now, as an architect, none of that is part of your world. As an architect, it's about end-to-end systems design. So for the architect, you need to know the network and the data center. What do I mean by the network? I mean routers, switches, the types of connections that exist, VPN technology, private line technology, direct connect, same kind of thing. You need to understand VLANs, trunking, 802.1q tagging, Q and Q tagging, Ethernet over MPLS, BGP, OSPF. Again, none of these things are DevOps skills. Then you need to understand servers, server virtualization, containers, firewalls, load balancers, databases, and storage, and VPN concentrators for the most part. That's your cloud architect skill. So there is zero overlap between DevOps and architecture. They are about as different as a cat and a horse. I love cats and I love horses. They are very good careers, but they are very animals, just like careers, but they are so different. Studying one is no relationship to the other. If you've got more questions on that, now what kind of mindset? That's another great question. A DevOps engineer is an engineer. How do I do this task? How do I do this task? How do I get this task done? What's the most efficient way to get this task done? Engineer mindset. Architect mindset. How do I figure out how to solve a customer's problems with technology? That's what the architect does. So the architect is designing business problems, and the engineer is how do I go fix this or build this. So you couldn't have actually picked two different careers. Now, I know you didn't pick these two different careers for a fact. I know that there's a lot of confusion going on by bad job postings, for example, and I know there's also a lot of confusion coming out from, certification providers saying, hey, guess what? If you want to be a doctor, go study to be a flight attendant, when they say study your sysops and your DevOps. But they are so absolutely unrelated. In fact, these jobs are so unrelated, and the job description world has gotten so crazy. Gartner, which is an organization that actually evaluates technology professionals, was actually asked to go and decided to do research on what is a cloud architect. And the reason they asked this crazy question was as follows. They kept saying job descriptions that were completely related to every other job other than architect work. So in the process of doing this, Gartner asked chief information officers. So for those of you that don't know, CEO sets the strategy for the organization. The CIO executes the CEO's business strategy with the use of information technology, who hires the VP of IT, the director of IT, and the hiring manager. So if you want to know what somebody does, ask the CIO. They're signing the paychecks. So Gartner said this, we're going to go interview CIOs from all over the world and see what do they want in the cloud architect. And here's what they said. Someone that can lead the cultural change for cloud adoption. Someone that can develop and coordinate a cloud architecture. Someone that can develop a cloud strategy. Someone that can help find talent with the necessary skills, assess applications, software, and hardware, create a cloud broker team, select cloud providers and determine the best services, someone to work with the security people, someone to manage budgets and operate at cost. I'm even going to put the link to this article for you in the chat box so you can see it. But here's the point. That's what we architects do. Note, you did not hear configure. You did not hear code. You didn't hear any of those things. We're architects. We're designers. So, that's why when I get asked these questions, I want to be so specific. I know there's some people in this particular continent that are telling everybody, hey, by the way, to be an architect, study all these other careers. Here's why I don't want you to do that. Average cloud architect earns $600 a day. Average. Every day that you're studying some skill that's not yours is costing you $600 a day via what's in business we call opportunity cost. Meaning if you spend your time and money on one thing, it won't be available to do something else. So you want to be a great architect, you want to get hired to be an architect, learn to be an architect. You want to be a great DevOps engineer, learn to be a great DevOps engineer. Both are wonderful. So what do I mean by this? Be great at your actual job. And I think you'll be in fantastic shape. Hope I answered your question there. And I'm happy to answer subsequent questions. Praveen, okay, so Dare Lassie, Dare, I so appreciate all your kind words there. I am super grateful, so thank you so much. Praveen, you 200% agree with Dare Lassie. Thank you so much. I really try to help my students, not just technological-wise, but business-wise, leadership-wise. I really do try and help them, and I'm very grateful to have you as a student. I also have another student with a last name of Dare. Of course, Dare is a pretty common Nigerian name. So if you're my student, Dare, thank you. If you're not my student, Dare, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. And I don't go on roller coasters. I have 5 herniated discs, 2 torn rotator cuffs, labral tears in both shoulders and hips, and a neurological condition. So I'm not a candidate to go on roller coasters, but I used to love them. I used to love Space Mountain here in Florida. I could just drive up to it. It was pretty close, but I haven't been there in a long time. Samir Shah, you've been in cybersecurity data information space for 14 years. That is a great place to be. You know what? You can continue to do that, and it's great. You can do the same thing on the cloud, and it's great. Actually, my associate Chris does love roller coasters. And I did in my youth. They were really, really, really great. But what happens is when your body doesn't cooperate anymore, you have to change things. Samir Shah, need guidance on how to get up to speed in cloud security. Okay, so Samir Shah, what kind of security have you been doing then? For example, if you let me know what you've done in security. For example, if you've been in cyber, okay, so if you let me know what you have done, have you been designing solutions for a security organization? Meaning designing their end-to-end security architecture, meaning you're working on, first the security policy, then, what the firewall should look like, and then what the IDS, IPS system should look like, and your packet filtering sort of situation, and maybe the private VLANs and .1QX and authentication things. Have you done that kind of thing? Because if you're working on that kind of thing, that's all architecture. It's the same thing in the cloud. You just need to learn the cloud. So if you've done that much kind of thing, and you've got like that CISSP level knowledge, that end-to-end design, then all you need to do is learn the cloud. Which is basically, okay, more of administration policy and development with these tools. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I get all of the answers to your questions, because as your information is coming in, more of administration policy and development of these tools. Okay, so for you need to take a step back. You're going to need to learn that end-to-end network and data center, because the cloud's nothing more than a network and data center, and you have to understand what it is. So I'd say, get that certified solution architect professional, learn networking if you don't know it, learn routing protocols, how they work. Then, I would also learn operating system vulnerabilities, common attack patterns, for example. Then I would learn how to write a security policy using one of these security frameworks that, basically speaking, doesn't do anything, but it fits this nice, beautiful academic model of what you do and how to do it. Then I would take that security framework and I'd break it down into an architecture, the actual things that actually going to do the job. So some people are going to want this nice academic policy that's going to be 100 pages long. You probably need to have it for everyone. And that's going to give the lawyers their things to do and the executives their thing. You got to use it. And then in the end, go design it the way it needs to work with your firewalls, IDS, IPS systems. So that's what you need to do. Now, if you want to do cloud security architect work, you still need those architect skills, that business acumen, that executive presence, that emotional intelligence, ROI modeling skills. These are the skills that you really need to become a truly great architect, whether it's a cloud security architect or an architect. So take a step back. Administration is kind of the sysops of our world, the maintenance, which is all good, important stuff. And then we need to elevate you to the architect knowledge, which is how to design it from end to end and how all the systems work together. So that's the path. And I think you would do well. And 14 years of tech experience in general puts you in a very competitive advantage. You just need to learn architecture and for both cloud and security, and you'll be great. Yeah, that's about right. 1,200 AUD in Australia. It's not hard to do, and getting that in the US is about the same too. You're dealing with about $1,200 a day for a strong cloud security architect, like a good strong one. But why are we getting paid that much? I gotta tell you, I gotta give you the reason. We're close to the customer, which means we're bringing money into the business. Because we have executive communication skills, because we're a cross between an executive and a technology professional, we're getting paid a lot. Because we can look at the business and solve business's challenges, we're getting paid a lot. So it's only half of our technical skills. It's that other 50% that's so critical for the architect. And yes, you should do very well with that background. Excellent, actually. KKR Kotha, may I know how to practice end-to-end solution architect scenarios? Well, if you're in our program, we train you in solution architect scenarios. If you're not with our program, it's going to be really, really hard because you're going to have to be able to find some CEO that you can go interview and figure out what their business challenges is. And then after you figure out what their business challenges is, then go back and design the solution. And you're going to have to baseline their current systems. What I can offer you is on Tuesdays, we do some free training, and it's very basic compared to what we actually do with our students, but it's good training anyway. And on Tuesday, we have a free cloud architect challenge. And what'll happen is the students will interview me in this free challenge, and they will design an architecture with AWS and potentially 2 clouds while they do it. So from Chris from my team is going to give you the link for the free cloud architect challenge. You will get to practice AWS designing AWS solutions. Menu ready. Do you need to master programming language to be a cloud architect? No. So as I mentioned, we cloud architects design. That's it. Meet with a client, design, and present back to the customer. We don't configure at all. The last time I actually touched the command line was 20 years ago. But I've been designing solutions and billion-dollar solutions for organizations for years. So architects design. So there's no coding, there's no configuration, none of it. Executive presence, emotional intelligence, communication skills, presentation skills, ROI modeling, knowledge of the network and the data center and how to design these systems are the only thing that you need to do and master to be a cloud architect. No coding, no configuring, ever. Now, if you want to be doing DevOps, you're going to have to learn an incredible amount. Node.js is probably something you're going to need to know. You're going to need to know Python, but guess what? You may need to know other programming languages based upon the company that you're at. So DevOps is only a career for a software developer. It's for the most part. So I wouldn't just think about, doing it. Now, I am working with my friend Sandeep Das, and we're going to create like a 6 months how to get your first DevOps program. And that's designed to teach people, how to get their first tech job. And it'll be Sandeep and all of his DevOps world, and me in terms of my 20 years experience on how to get your first tech job, because that's where I've been. Nice job. But understand, DevOps It is a huge barrier to entry if you're not a programmer. If you're a software developer, this is great. But if you are not, and you want to do DevOps, make sure you get really good programming skills first. So I would say for most people, probably take a year of programming just to have the basic programming knowledge to even begin a DevOps career. And then another 6 months to a year of hardcore DevOps training. So much easier and faster to become an architect from scratch, but than a DevOps professional, and you get paid a lot more. So to be an architect versus a DevOps professional, but I still think DevOps careers are awesome for people that love DevOps, so and engineering and programming. So I think it's a great career, and we need a lot more DevOps professionals. Thousands upon thousands of great DevOps. Very important career. Just pick one. Yes, Chevy. Best regards, sir. You are a student. I'm not sure if you're one of our students in the program. I think you mean you're a college student. But if you can let me know, that would be great. Can I suggest how to begin your cloud career? How can you get your certification? That's easy. But certification and hired are two very different things. First thing I'll suggest is how to get the certification. On our page, the link in the description below this video, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate ebook, a completely free Certified Solution Architect Associate course, a free Certified Solution Architect Professional course, and a completely free AWS Advanced Networking course. Learn those while you're a student. That'll give you a good foundation into the basics of the AWS environment, and you can get certified with those certifications while you're there. Now, I still need you to learn the network in the data center, and I still need you to learn the communication skills, presence, emotional intelligence, all those things. And if you wanted to work with us, we work with lots of students. By the time they're done school, they have jobs. Or if you want to do it this way for right now, you can use all of those free training options in there, and you can watch all the free training videos on our YouTube channel. And guess what? We're going to be coming at you a lot more really soon. We've bought all new video gear. It costs as much as a car. Specialty Blackmagic 6K cameras, specialty lenses for it, specialty video encoders, professional audio gear. By the way, I hope we look and sound good today because we're testing out our new gear. It's one of the first times we actually use it. So 32 core workstations with multiple GPUs and a 1/4 terabyte of RAM just to be able to stream like this. So this is how seriously we take this. So that's exactly, realistically speaking, where we take this. So you can use any of the free things that we have going on, or we could work with you on our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. In either case, you'll have access to the certification. I don't have any students that don't finish my program without the Certified Solution Architect Professional because it's a bare minimum. But that's only 10% of what we teach. The other 90% is how to become an architect. Arietta, could you list out the certifications to opt for a solutions architect? Yes. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. Now, that's enough for the cloud, but it may not be enough to start your career. Typically speaking, I have my students pick a specialty. So if you want to do cloud networking, do the Certified Solution Architect Professional with a Cisco CCNP. If you want to do cloud security, do a CISSP, a CCSP, or a CEH along with the Certified Solution Architect Professional. So that's how I would build a certification portfolio. If you give me some specifics, I'm happy to answer them. Samir Shah, I have become a fan, just fond of you in the last hour. Thank you so much, and I'm super happy to work with you and have you here. Please keep coming. My videos and guidance are super useful. Thank you so much. You would like to learn and grow with you. We are thrilled to work with you, Samir. You want to send me a LinkedIn connection request? That's great. Anybody on this call account as well, I'll accept it. I want to do everything we can to boost the community, and I'm thrilled to work with you in any capacity. So thank you so much, Samir. Tyrone, so good to see you. Always good to see you. I'm assuming you're my friend. You're our friend Tyrone in South Africa that keeps coming on. I have another student in South Africa also named Tyrone, who's a really great guy. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Samir Shah, let me ask your question because it's a subsequent question. And our cloud architect career development course is 16 weeks. Okay, so it's a great question. So here's the way we run our program. I say it's 16 weeks because that's what it takes for someone with experience, typically speaking, to get to the first job. Having said that, I don't take away access to anybody's content ever. So buy the course. The training in the course is going to be available to you, now, 6 months from now, a year from now. We have some students that sometimes take jobs and want to be and still to attend our training calls on Zoom. That's fine too. We don't care. The only thing we limit is access to our data center for 16 weeks because there's an expense. Basically, I've got a data center. I'm giving students access to full servers so they can build their own clouds on. Because my students, in order to build a great cloud architect, you need to know the network in the data center and have experience on it. So my students, for example, they VPN into our data center. And on our data center, first they work with server virtualization, then they build containers because that's the computing platform in the cloud. Then my students set up network file system shared because that's really important to know how networking, and Samba shares for the same reason, file storage and sharing options. Then my students build the Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stack because it's the most common web stack in the world. After that, my students build firewalls on our servers, then they build VPN concentrators, then they build Active Directory. And then you know what my students do? They build the cloud. For real, a real cloud, an Openstack Ansible cloud, just like AWS, and they build it on my servers because I need you to have that much depth of knowledge. So that's how hard we have to work to make sure people do it. So when we do a 250-hour plus training program, and that's the minimum, we list our old calls to training calls. So students that really want to join can actually get about 500 hours of training in this program, same price. We make them really great. So they're equivalent of like having 5 to 10 years experience by the time they actually get out in terms of knowledge. So hope I answered your question. The time zone is in Eastern time. So it is not the best time for people in India. I'm not sure what country you're actually in. But I've got a tremendous number of students, wonderful students in India, Africa, and lots of wonderful places spread throughout the world. A lot in India and a whole lot in Africa. Amazing people. And so what I could say about that is, we run our Monday calls at 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's not the best time for the India folks. What happens is a lot of our India folks, they join like the first hour or two of the call, and then they watch the replay. And then on Fridays, we have a call at 12 p.m. and our students, it's at a better time for the folks in India. They typically attend the call for 2 hours or so, sometimes all 3, and then they typically watch the replay because we upload all calls and we record everything because we understand things happen. So I hope I answered your question there, Samir Shah. Now, I'll get to your question in a minute, but I see there's a few more questions in order, so let me answer them. Sami Youssef. Hello, what are the jobs that may be very relevant for someone with a good experience in OpenStack deployment? Okay, this is great. So, it's really funny. About 5 years ago, someone that I met had said to me, Mike, tech, what kind of job could I get? And I looked at this kid, and he's now very extreme professional with a great technology career. And I looked and I said, well, what's that Linux computer you got sitting over there? He's like, I love Linux. I said, get Red Hat certified. I said, all the way up to the architect. And we did a little discussions on how to interview, how to speak, what to put on your resume. 6 months later, he was working at Red Hat. And then he said, what do I do? And I said, learn the OpenStack platform. I said, cloud is everything. So he did. And now he's got an extremely good job with a highly innovative tech company that we all use in the cloud every single day. Now, why am I talking about these things? It's a matter of finding what you love and being great at it. OpenStack or OpenStack Cloud, the OpenStack Ansible Cloud, is the cloud that's being used everywhere. It's the IBM cloud. And if you know the OpenStack Cloud, you know the cloud. So when you come from that kind of building OpenStack world, you've already got a good fundamental knowledge, because when you configure OpenStack, you set up the storage, you set up your containers, you're dealing with your Mongo databases to house all your customer information. You're dealing with Linux systems, hypervisors, literally all the container management systems. So you already have a lot of the skills. Now, to go from those skills to architect skills, you still need to learn a lot about the network. Make sure you understand all those other networking things: load balancers, storage area networks. Make sure you understand all the components of the networking and routing protocols and all that stuff. And here, make sure that you are solid. I mean, really solid on, for example, what's the word I'm looking for? The network and all those big data center concepts, and then design. You've got to learn end-to-end system design. And also business communication skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, learning how to be relevant for the CEO, CIO, CFO, learning how the difference to speak with an intuitive personality type like me, which are most CEOs, versus an analytical personality type versus a functional personality type, being able to read the room, being able to negotiate, all critical skills. So that would be your career path. But you've got a huge, huge, huge background. And then you ready? You've asked this question, so I'm going to answer it. No programming languages for cloud architects. None. Cloud engineers need to know whatever the appropriate language is for their job. It's definitely going to include Python and Node.js, but there could be others related to the job in the company. So once you start getting into these engineering roles, you're going to have to learn coding, unless you're already a coder. Sami Youssef, you had a subsequent question for the first question, and I love that, so let's give you some more data. What jobs may be relevant for anyone with a good experience in OpenStack? Well, for example, I don't exactly know what you've done in OpenStack, but you said administration. Any of the cloud engineering roles would be great right then and there, because that's pretty much what you're doing. And so what do you mean by networking? Or were you a CCI like me that was focusing on an architect and designing things? Were you configuring VLANs? Where you're designing BGP, internet routing architectures? Were you configuring BGP? I need to know a little bit more about what that stuff is that you're doing to try and give you better information. Well, I wait for more information like that. Like, for example, were you setting up server virtualization? Were you managing it? Were you designing it, architecting it? That's kind of where I need to know. Ike KOL, do all students start with the associate level, or can we start with the professional? Ike, it's up to you. I spent a weekend and read and passed the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam. I just wanted to take an exam. I wasn't going to do all the basic exams. There was no point for me. I've been designing cloud systems forever. So I spent 2 days, read a Cybex book on passing the Google Professional Cloud Architect, then took the exam and passed it. So what is your background? One thing I'll tell you is we always skip the cloud practitioner. We view that as a certification never to do. The reason we skip the cloud practitioner is as follows. There are 0 jobs available with the cloud practitioner. The certified solution architect associate and the cloud practitioner are almost the same content. So it takes about 2 months to do the, the cloud practitioner. The reason it takes so long is AWS makes these tests hard. They're all hard by the way they make their questions. So our preference is for you is as follows. do the associate and go straight to the professional. Now, if you've got a good network background and a good data center background, go straight to the professional. So like, it's totally up to you. What is your background? If you are really strong, then you'll be in great shape and you won't need to do this. But for example, and you can go straight to the professional, but if you've never seen any of these things before, might make sense to actually do the associate and then the professional. And guess what? When you do the associate for $150, they give you a 50% off coupon for the professional, which is also $150. So it goes from $300 to $150. So the price is the same no matter which way you do it. And by going through the content twice, once for the associate and again for the professional, the content's even similar, then you're really good. So I typically like the associate and the professional, but like if you've got a lot of background in tech, you might not need it. You go straight to professional. So that's going to be up to you. I thought I recognized your handle, Ike, but I just wanted to be sure. Man, you're ready. Coding is new to you. You're not sure if you'll master the programming languages, then don't become a DevOps engineer. Or don't become a cloud engineer, become a cloud architect. I don't code. Never have. One time an employer back in 2001 thought it would be a good idea to take their lead network architect and send him to training to learn how to code. So I went to training. While I went out to training, the organization had an outage. I got back from training and they're like, you're right, Mike. I needed that architect to run our system and design our system. Never have you code. So good architects don't code. So if you don't want to code, and I hate coding, I mean, it's a great career. I'm grateful and thankful that people can do it. To me, staring at a computer screen and looking at code is my identification, is a little harder for me than watching paint dry. So for me, that's me. It's not my personality type to code. I don't like structure. I'm a visionary kind of person. So coding is not me. Coding is awesome, but it's not me. So I picked architectural roles where I never had to do them. So don't worry so much about coding. Do something that doesn't require coding. Same thing for you, Shakrit. A good cloud solution architect does not code. You don't need any coding. There is no coding in end-to-end system design. So I'm going to try and make this really clear. An architect, let's pretend, for example, we get out of this cloud computing world and we talk about a building architect. Same job, by the way, because I've been an architect forever. And all my solution architects that I take for executive coaching all do the same thing. All my cloud architects that I coach all do the same thing. Every architect that I've ever worked with for the last 30 years all does the same thing. And I've hired lots of architects and we don't code. Now, here's what we do. The architects meet with clients. We ask them what are their business goals? What are their challenges? What are they trying to achieve? From there, we design something. What is the tech that's going to solve their problems? And then when we're done designing it, we hand it to a cloud engineer to go build it. They may need to code. We only design as architects. Nothing other than design and present and sell. Design, present, sell. Design, present, sell. No coding, no configuration, nothing. So you want to be an architect, study architecture. You want to code, that's great. Become a cloud engineer or a sysops or a DevOps person, but they're different jobs. So no coding for cloud security, that's great news because you don't have to code. But you better be real good at security, and you better be really good at end-to-end systems design, and you better be really good at presentations and those kind of things. That is the skill set. Hope I answered your question. Sammy Youssef, okay, thank you for your answer. Is it easier with an Openstack background to fit into other cloud providers? To fit in other cloud providers' technologies such as AWS or Azure, or do you have to learn stuff from zero? Sammy, you already know it. I mean, this is actually before so Manuel, I'll get to your question in a minute, but so when I teach my cloud architects, I teach modules. This concept of learning AWS or learning Azure or learning GCP, in my mind, that's just insanity. See, here's the thing. A virtual machine is a virtual machine. And it doesn't matter if that VM is called Compute Engine on Google, an EC2 instance in AWS, or an Azure virtual machine. It doesn't matter if you've got a Docker container on which platform. It doesn't matter if you use AWS Elastic Container Service or somebody else's container service. It's all the same. It doesn't matter if you got a network load balancer called an Elastic load balancer or an Azure load balancer. It's irrelevant. It's the same technology. You're using all this stuff in OpenStack. If you're dealing with a relational database, it's still just a relational database. If you're dealing with a firewall, guess what? It's still a firewall. If you're dealing with a packet filter, guess what? It's still a packet filter. Everything is the same on OpenStack as every other cloud. That's why we have so many of our students use OpenStack, because it's the best teacher for the cloud. Don't memorize the name of something. Students come to me and they can't get hired because they've memorized or mugged up, a question and an answer. And yeah, they know AWS S3 is object storage, but they don't understand object storage. Learn the tech at its fundamental level. And then, honestly, build yourself a cheat sheet. That's what I do. I've got a cheat sheet that says, okay, Azure calls it this, this does this. So when the building architect designs a building, and for some reason, the community, specifically the certification providers that want to sell courses, literally are telling people, and that's why our certification training is free. Our certification training teaches people, our certification teaches the name of the service and how to configure it. Google has a cheat sheet on their website just to help you. I mean, the point is if I'm going to design a building, I'm going to say the building is 1,000 meters tall, wind gusts are 100 miles an hour. The building, what it's being putting on this, the density of the materials is this. So how do I build that up so the building doesn't sink into the ground? Like the Burj Al Arab, for example, built on sand, most beautiful building I've ever seen in my life in Dubai. But my understanding that it sunk a foot into the ground because the ground wasn't dense enough. So when we building, people say, look, I want to build the building. And I say, we need steel. Do I care where the person buys the steel from? It's irrelevant to me. I know they need a steel of a certain strength. Do I care where the construction workers buy their cement from? Of course I don't. Do I care where the construction workers buy their walls from? It's irrelevant to me. Do I care where the construction workers buy the glass from? It's irrelevant to me. So if you're really a good architect of the cloud, of the network, you know what needs to be done. I need a router doing what? My BGP policy needs to look like this. My NAT needs to be this. My addressing scheme needs to be this. That's what we do as architects. So everything that you learned in OpenStack is identical to the cloud. The name has changed. So you'll be in great shape there. And man, you ready? You can ask my good friend Sandeep by some of his channels. I did, and Sandeep is a true DevOps professional. I also have another person, Sujit, on my team who's a real DevOps professional. You can't be a DevOps engineer without learning programming. The only people that are saying this are the people that are trying to sell programming courses. And I got to tell you, the only reason we created our training was because I had a very thriving business, charging $400 an hour to advise people on their career. It was easy. But the reason we created this training is we had no choice. I bought all the main training programs that existed for there. Most were produced in a single continent in the South Pacific. After interviewing 1,000 people from these programs, none were hireable. Why were none hireable? None had any skill completely related to the technology. I'm looking at one of these certification providers now, one of the big famous ones. And every day I see a LinkedIn post. He's got an advanced networking course coming. Guess what? The person never worked in networking in their entire life, but they're going to teach networking. You know what I learned after becoming a Cisco certified internet expert? The most hard certification exam in the world? How much more I had to learn even before this. And I don't teach anything where I don't have 30 years experience. So man, you're ready. I'm going to tell you. If you want to be a DevOps, you must be a good coder. Like a real coding professional. Like you've had a professional coding career and then you decided to do DevOps, kind of as a different role. So do as you see fit. But if you want to get hired when you're done, if you want to do DevOps, make sure you're a great programmer. If you want to do architecture, make sure you understand architecture. If you want to do engineering, make sure you learn engineering. But be great at your job and ask hiring managers if you don't believe me. What do you want? Don't ask certification providers. And if you do ask a certification provider, Look at the number of courses they actually have, and then go look at their LinkedIn profile. What you'll see from me is architecture only. Yes, I have my good friend Imram and I, and we're creating a cloud network architect program, and he's got 2 CCIEs and I've got a CCIE, and we've been doing networking together for over 50 years. You'll see that because that's all we do. If I have 2 DevOps people creating a DevOps program, they'll have 30 plus years experience in it. I won't produce a course where we don't have at least 25 years experience, because if not, we're not competent. So we want to make sure that. So research the job, ask hiring managers like we did, ask IT recruiters like we did, ask the people that are paying for these services, and then you'll know. Look, everything we do is based on science and questions we've asked from industry experts and our experience in the industry for 30 years. Can't be DevOps unless you know how to code. So I really want to try and protect you, and that's why we have these videos. Who else has the next question? Cloud Learner, that's a great question. So I get asked this a lot. Why do we have our architects master the old tech? And I even had this conversation. I was presenting to one of the largest AWS meetup groups that was out there, and they're like, help me convince my people that they need to know virtualization. And I said to this person, I said, what do you mean convince them they need to know virtualization? I said, what is 90% of the work they're doing? And he's going to say, lift and shift architectures. I said, so taking a virtual machine from the data center to the cloud? And he said, yeah. I said, taking storage from the data center to the cloud? And he said, yes. I said, how's somebody going to do that if they don't know what it is that they're moving? And he said, they're not. And Samir, the answer is yes. I'll get to you in a second. And I said, they're not. I said, so that's what people need to know. People need to know as follows. They can't actually design an end-to-end system without knowing how it works. So what is the cloud? It's a network and a data center. So the reason we use the labs that we use is, look, I can set up a virtual machine on an EC2 instance in 3 seconds. I don't even have to install an operating system. In fact, occasionally I use, when I have to film things, I usually use my friend's beautiful little 8-year-old little girl. She's got this little 2 pigtails. She's got a smile on her face, and she clicks 3 buttons and she says EC2. But guess what? Nobody's going to pay you $600 a day or $1,200 a day to do these kind of things. So they're just not that valuable in terms of skills. But what is the end-to-end system design. So that's what you've got to do, is know how to do it. But you can't do systems you don't know. So what is the main computing platforms in the cloud? It's a virtualization and container. So that's why I have my students do it. What is the most common web platform on the cloud? It's the LAMP stack. Why do I have my students do it on our servers? All the work's done for you from AWS, and you're not going to know how any of it works unless you build it yourself the first time. So I have my students do that. Why do I have my students set up NFS servers? Because I want them to truly understand NFS, because it's the way all Unix and Linux systems work on the cloud. Whether you call it NFS or EFS, it's the same thing. Why do I have my students truly build an Active Directory server from scratch? Because Active Directory in and off the cloud is the most common IAM platform in the world. So I want my students to actually know these things. So it's super important. Why do I have my students build the cloud? Until you've truly built the cloud and know every component of the cloud, you don't really know the cloud. And if you don't really know the cloud, and all you know is the name of a service and how to configure it, when someone like me interviews somebody, they're not going to pass the interview. So it's super, super important to do this and be great at what you do. And that's why we teach our labs the way we do. The students do them, and it'll either work or not work. It'll be very obvious. But the students that do these labs tell me it's a life-changing experience for them, and they understand so much more, and that's why we use them. Happy to answer more questions. Samir Shah, yes, we have a payment plan. So Chris will drop a link to the program along with the 20% off coupon. And here's how you access the payment plan. If you click on the link that Chris sends you, and you click purchase, in the box where it's got a price, there's a little black arrow directly to the left of purchase. If you click that arrow, you can access the payment plan. And of course, that coupon works for every single payment in the payment plan. So Samir Shah, I hope I answered your questions. Men, you ready? Thank Thank you so much. Just to let you know, that's why we started this program. That's why we started this channel. That's why we just spent literally about $20,000 in the last week upgrading our cameras and our computing systems to make sure we can produce as much free content and make it look and sound as good as possible. We are so upset by people pointing people in the wrong direction, costing them 6 months, 9 months of wasted efforts, teaching them things that will never be hard when they're done, that we have to fix this problem. That's why we have all of our free certification training. And that's why we created a program, which honestly speaking, I could easily charge $20,000, $25,000 for, and it would be worth it for everybody. Because if I got someone a job 6 months sooner on their own, which they couldn't get, that's $72,000 versus of course a $20,000, but we only charge 1 day's pay, not $20,000. We're only like less than $1,000 for that reason. It basically pays us to run our systems and take care of our employees so we can go out there and help people that need it most. Messafin, wonderful programs. Messafin, it's nice to be working with you as a student. I was thinking of you yesterday night. I have a huge collection of Burberry and Sparrow that was sent to me by one of my students on a recent trip home. And I was going to text you pictures of that last night when I found out where you were from. But wonderful to have you as a student. Samir Shah, it's a great question. Do we focus more of our training on AWS? The answer is yes. Does every one of our students know how to use Azure? The answer is yes. They also know how to use Google. I make sure that the students know any available in all clouds on these things. So, but I picked AWS for the following reason as the primary one. It's the main player. It's the market leader. So know the main player and you have the most career opportunities. And then obviously learn what's necessary for you. So that's what we did. And Chris, please provide a link for Samir Shah, as well as a coupon code. Who else has a question? There you go. Thank you, Chris, for posting that. And please post a coupon code for Mr. Shah. Thanks, Chris. Who else has the next question? And actually, while we're waiting on questions, if you're enjoying this content, if you can please leave a like, a comment, or a subscribe, and hit the bell. We're going to have so many new things coming out. And if you hit the bell, you'll be informed of some of the new exciting and free training that's coming from us. So I got to say this while we're waiting for things. I practiced medicine first. I was a nurse practitioner practicing internal medicine, had my own office, and I really loved it. And when I joined tech, I got to tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. All I can say is I love it so much, and that's why I've been in this industry for over 25 years. Technically 1993, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to say 2000 or 1998. I don't want to sound old. So realistically speaking. So Mansion P, which certification is best for networking? Well, the two best networking certifications are the CCIE and the CCDE, the Cisco Certified Internet Expert and the Cisco Certified Design Expert. I will tell you that having either one of those basically writes your ticket for networking. But these are hard exams. When I did my CCIE, and granted it was a little more complicated 20 years ago because it used to be a 2-day exam. And on the first day exam, they asked you to build the entire thing. And the next day, 80% of the people had already failed out. The 20% of the people that were left, in the morning, you would basically build some more things. And then after that, they would send you to lunch. And if you passed and you still were in the game, which basically everybody was knocked out there, they would break your systems and you had to fix it. So when I did my CCIE 20 years ago, I had to read about 75,000 pages of reading just to pass the exam. I will tell you that in today's world, it's easier because there's now training programs dedicated towards the exams, and you can probably do it in 50,000 pages instead of the 75,000 pages to be a really good CCIE. So If you want to be a networking person, CCIE or CCDE, I have a cloud network architect program coming very, very, very soon. And I have a network architect program coming very, very soon. And they will focus on CCIE level skills along with the business acumen, communication skills, executive training, national intelligence, presence, and all those kind of things. So I hope it ends. It's really funny. And when we look back at the last year of what things that have transpired with us, what ultimately happened was I was just producing some free videos saying like, hey, by the way, if you want to be an architect, do this. And I did it because here's really how we started this business. People ask me the question all the time. So I've got a few minutes between questions. Let's talk about it. So I've been teaching people for 20 years now how to get their first tech job. And I've loved every last moment of it. And I had set up a very large blockchain data center in McPherson, Kansas, because it had the cheapest electric in the country. And we were using a few megawatts of power. So, that could be $10,000 a month of saved money on electric for what we were doing, just being there. Went there, great people, nice place, loved it, loved it, loved it. Became such good friends with somebody out there that my friend said, oh my God, would you train my son to be like one of your people? And I said, sure. So what I did is I said, I have 2 to 4 hours for him every Friday. You're a friend, and I'll do it as a favor, as a volunteer. I had time in those days. So I bought the kid the 3 best-selling AWS Solution Architect Associate courses. And after 2 days, the kid called me and he says, Mike, I've set up an EC2 instance. I've configured an S3 bucket, but what are they? And I said, what do you mean, what are they? I said, I bought you the top 3 best-selling courses. And he said, I don't know what they are. So I said to him, it's not possible that you don't know what they are. So I watched these courses in horror. I first saw the one from the biggest provider, and it was the name of the service and how to configure it. And then I saw from another person that also was from that same geographic region that has his own business under his own name. And I saw this course and I was like, oh my God, another name of the service and how to configure it. Then I saw another person from this area that also had a course that was another name of the service and how to configure it. And the information was inaccurate. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I said to this young man, I said, we're going to create a book on passing the Certified Solution Architect Professional. And he says, we are? I said, yes, we are. I said, and guess what? We're going to strip out 10 pages of it and give it away completely free and call it a Certified Solution Architect Associate book. And I did that. And I was getting emails. I got hired. I passed my test. I was just so grateful and happy that I was like, okay, more. So then we did some consulting and did some work with some people with the Wind Fun Iron Group. And we just loved them so much. And we gave away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of certification courses, more than I could possibly even describe. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and thousands of books. And 25,000 ebooks we had out there within a week of launching our book. And what ultimately happened was as follows. I knew that somebody had to do something about it. I knew someone that basically had to take the AWS certified people and say, hey, by the way, here's how you're actually going to get hired. So that's what we did, And I got to tell you, I've never looked back. We started this, and we've got a group from all over the world like you can't even imagine. People are starting to realize what cloud architects actually do. People are actually getting trained. People are actually not getting hired. This is it's the honor of my life. So it's exciting for me. So that's why we talk about this, and that's why we invest so heavy in technology for you guys, to make sure that all of you guys can have the same technology career that I had. I've had this career for 30 years now almost, and I've loved it. I want all of you to experience all those good things, and that's why we do what we do. So I see a question from Kashif Humphrey. On your job, you design and implement solutions internally. So you're confused which one I should do, cloud engineer versus architect. Any advice? Be an architect. You're already one. So you're an Azure environment in your company. It's common to study AWS as well. Become a master at one of them, Kashif. Azure, AWS. If you're Azure, get the Azure Expert cert. It doesn't matter. Azure is actually a great starting point as well. Why? Because Azure actually calls things what they are. AWS has to add the word elastic in front of everything. And you know what? They're smart. Good marketing people give something a catchy name. Their brand is Elastic. Google puts the word cloud in front of things, or F5 puts the word big in front of things. Guess what Azure does? They call it a virtual machine. They don't call it an elastic compute engine. They don't call it an elastic computing for AC2. They don't call it a Google compute engine. They call it a virtual machine. Now, does the name of the service matter? Not at all, unless you're in marketing and related to trying to bring it back to revenue. Then it matters just so much. So, for you, become an expert on the one cloud. Doesn't matter. And then learn all the functional equivalents on any cloud, and then you can work on all of them. Although I do love that AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and I generally recommend people get that. It really helps with finding jobs. No, I'm going to say it this way. I should say better. It doesn't help you find a job. It helps you get an interview. Certifications do not get you hired, but they help you get interviewed. So the key of that certification is to get you an interview. The key to training is to give you the knowledge to actually be hired. And certification training and actual job knowledge is very different. But if you're designing solutions, then you're doing architecture work, I would do that. Now, if you're the implementation engineer, then you're more of a cloud engineer. So if you tell me what you do, if you're doing more design, I would do architecture. The reason I would do architecture is as follows. It's better salary by far. It can be double or triple than an engineer in the long term. It's also easier to be an architect. A lot of the time as an architect, not when you're not system designing, you're buying clients lunch, dinner, entertaining people. And when you're an engineer, you're sitting behind the computer all day long. Again, great career if you like it, but it's a different kind of career. Hope I answered your questions there. Who else has a question? Got a few more minutes that I can go. Okay, Michael. Apologies, I'm looking to the screen at the left to read this question. Michael Akintola, what do you suggest a network engineer roadmap start with AWS? This is really great. I'm assuming you're already a network engineer. Which to start with both platforms. According to region, Africa has one of the most, and we do a lot of work on Michael in Africa. As it stands now, I have about 75 Nigerian students, for example. I've got about 50 Cameroonian students, all wonderful people. I've got a bunch of Ethiopian students. I've got a bunch of people in South Africa, Gabon, Benin, Ghana, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, and now I have some students coming from from Congo. So it's a region that's getting a lot of things. So I'm trying to please recap if the question has been asked. Okay, so if you want to be a network engineer, now I do have a program coming up for network architects, not network engineers. If you want to be a network engineer, here's the path. Get a Cisco certified network professional. Start with a Cisco certified network associate if you need, then become a Cisco certified network professional. Then get an AWS certified solution architect professional or an Azure expert, and that will give you, Michael, an extremely good background for network engineering as well as the cloud. Now, Michael, on our YouTube channel, to let you know, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate course, AWS Advanced Networking course, and a completely free AWS Advanced Networking course. Now, furthermore, on our channel, I've got a lot of training on BGP, which is the most commonly used routing protocol on the internet. I've got some intro to networking things, and I've got a subnetting workshop that was 4 hours that we spent doing that. Michael, I encourage you to read all of those things. It will be highly helpful for you. And I have a lot more network training coming, probably next week. I'm going to have my good friend Imran and I, and we're going to do some router configuration. So please subscribe to our channel. Please hit that bell so you're going to be notified about it. And we have so much more network training coming in the next few weeks. And we're probably, maybe, going to do a free CCNA program coming. If we've got enough people requesting CCNA training, we'll do a free CCNA program. So that will also be a big help. I recently worked with a very nice gentleman in Lagos, Nigeria, helped him figure out what to do for his first network engineering job, and he got one within about a month. So not exactly sure which country in Africa you're in, but there are jobs there. I will tell you, in Nigeria, lots of tech investment going on right now. In Cameroon, lots of tech investment going on right now. In South Africa, lots of tech investment going on. And while the cloud is nothing more than a virtualized network in a data center, in places like my village in Greece, for example, or certain parts of Africa, the cloud is amazing because there's no servers to buy. There's no data centers to set up. There's no cooling. There's no massive electric bills. So the cloud gives people that chance to actually start a business and do it in a way like nobody else, and it's extremely exciting. Michael, if you've got a subsequent question, I would love to answer it for you. I see you're on LinkedIn. So if you've got more questions or desire more, let me know, and I'll do anything I can to help you. So we'll give Michael a chance to ask a subsequent question on LinkedIn. Super happy to have you joining us today, Michael. Does anybody else have any questions for me? If you love implementing, then keep implementing while you enjoy it. Some people really love those engineering roles and love implementing. And if you love it, go do it. I think it's wonderful. And if you reach that point where you've had enough implementing, then go move into architecture. And if you love implementing forever, guess what? You can still be a great engineer. But make sure if you study those business acumen skills, communication skills, executive presence skills, guess what? You can have a great high-paying engineering career too, and take on more of those principal engineer roles and distinguished engineer roles that are a cross between engineering and business leadership. And again, big pay, lots of great careers. So hope I answered your question there. Gopal, I have had every network troubleshooting problem you can actually imagine. Access lists, firewalls, MAC address filtering, issues related to private VLANs, issues related to routing protocols, and QoS all the time. This is just the normal day in networking, Gopal. What happens over time is the better your architecture skills are as a network architect, the better you can actually design all these end-to-end policies. And then if your engineers build it according to the specs, they typically work and you don't have these problems. But I will tell you this, 90% of all networking problems I've ever faced were when non-networking people attempted to do the network. Here's the thing with networking. It's really complex. It doesn't sound complex, but it's really complex. When people make it sound easy or think that it's easy, they make lots and lots and lots of mistakes. Like I said, it took me 75,000 pages of reading to become a CCIE. I read a 300-page book and became a Google Professional Cloud Architect. We're not even talking the same universe when we're talking about the complexity and depth of knowledge. So that's why networking people do so great on the cloud. Know the network, know half the cloud, then learn the cloud, and you've got a career like you can't imagine. Gopal, do you have any further questions there? Michael, please connect on LinkedIn. I'm thrilled to hear from you. And I'm not. What part of Africa are you from, Michael? Because we've got so many wonderful people we work with in Africa, and we're always encouraged to do so. Make sure you sign up for the free books. Make sure you sign up for the free training courses. Attend our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. Again, that's free. Chris from my team will post a link. Attend our Cloud Architect Career Challenge and see what it's like to actually be the architect real life. And go ahead and do it. And we'd love to work with you. And if you're in Cameroon, we've got a great group of people that study in the Cameroon, for example, we can connect you to. So in addition to things, so just let us know how we can help you, Michael, and it's thrilled to work with you. Any last questions from me? From LinkedIn or YouTube? Well, sometimes people actually have questions for our organization. I'm actually going to do the dangerous thing and post our corporate phone number on YouTube. I do it every time. And that way, somebody from Go Cloud Architects will be able to answer this phone number if you have questions. And 25, 30% of the time, it'll be me. We pass the phone around with our executive team. So that way we know that the people that answer students' questions are always one of us, one of the executive team that knows our business right, so we make sure that we can answer everybody's questions perfectly. Any last questions for us? If you guys are having fun, can you type the word cloud architect in the box below? And that way we know you're paying attention. And Michael, wonderful. There's a really nice gentleman, I'll introduce you to him, who just took a network engineering job in Lagos, Nigeria. He might be willing to maybe share some of his local experiences with you. He's a really good guy. Go, pal. You know what? We will do some networking things and some networking troubleshootings. Great question. Aida, thank you so much. Super thrilled for letting me know that you're there. Go, pal. Oh, Alonzo, how are you today? Alonzo, my good friend. Alonzo is one of my students. He's ready to graduate really soon. Has become a cloud architect. He's an exceptional cloud architect. For those that are listening, I'd want him on my team. Any other questions for me? I know there's about a 60-second delay, so I'll give you guys a little bit of an extra chance. I want to make sure we answer everybody's questions. I want to do everything we possibly can to help the cloud architect community. That's why we do these calls for free every week. And while we're waiting to see if anybody has any other questions, I got to tell you, super excited. Next week, we're going to have lots of new things coming at you in a lot of different platforms. Sure, I can. Wonderful. Cloud architect. That way I know you're awake, alert, and oriented. You're having fun. Guess what? Is there any kind of things you'd like us to cover? I heard network troubleshooting and some networking. That's great. Chris from my team will take that down. If there's anything in general, send an email to askcloudmike@gmail.com. I'll actually try and type it in. And if you actually send something there, for example, when you want something, we'll try and do something. So Manu Reddy, great question. After following the free resources for the Solution Architect Associate and Professional certifications, what do you need to learn? You need to learn the network and the data center, Manu Reddy. So that means routers, switches, firewalls, load balancers, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS systems, the type of cabling that's used, like single mode fiber, for example, NAT, BGP, eBGP, IBGP, all the complicated solutions to deal about all the non-transitive properties, sometimes like route reflectors, because they're widely used all over the place. And if you know a route reflector, then you understand Cloud Hub, Transit Gateway, or any of these things, real knowledge of IP addressing, and then the ability to give a really good presentation, super important. The ability to present to executives and what executives care about, being CXO relevant. The ability to do ROI modeling to show that the expected value of a solution is greater than the cost. Otherwise, nobody will buy the technology or implement it. The ability to lead a team of cloud engineers that are going to build the things that you design, and they don't work for you, so you can't hire them or fire them, so you got to make people want to do the job. So all those skills. And executive writing skills, because as an architect, 50% of your job is writing and presenting, literally half of your time, if not more. So you've got to become great at those things. So hope I answered your question there. They're the next learning curve. Any other questions for me? Because literally speaking, if we can do something to help you, we definitely want to do it. And if it's quiet and everybody's asked their questions, we'll come back next week and we're thrilled too. But if you've got a question, we want to help you. And you're ready. I'm so happy we're able to answer your questions. That's why we do these free training sessions, or these free question and answer sessions. Any other questions for us? Okay, well, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. And if that's the case, we're going to sign off now. Actually, I see from Mesafin, it's rare to find your type of mentor, and thank you for your positive contribution, Mesafin. I'm so thankful. Love the lizard bud, or is that a frog? I can't tell. It actually looks like a frog, a pretty happy frog. It's something very important to me that we help expand the community, so I'm super happy to be part of this community. And if I can provide any help, it makes me very happy. Thank you, Mesafin. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to spend the morning with you, and I will be back next week. LinkedIn user, love the new addition to the LinkedIn platform. Thank you so much, LinkedIn user. We're really, really excited to be part of this. And you're ready, looking forward to sort of the website and course. Wonderful. And then make a decision. Cloud architect sounds interesting. I prefer being an architect. I've been an engineer in my career, and I've also been an architect. And I got to tell you, I much prefer being an architect. But all these goals are really important. A pilot lift takes a plane from point A to point B. If the pilot doesn't fly the plane, there's no transport. You know what the flight attendants do? They're not really there to get us drinks. They're there to make sure that we arrive safely. So without the flight attendants, there's chaos on airplanes, and bad things would happen. So it takes a team of all the right people. All the people play an equally important role. Equally important. It's just different roles. So LinkedIn user, you're welcome, and thank you for participating today. And I got to tell you, we have so much more content coming soon with the new videos, the new audios. Things are going to be really coming soon, and we're super Shrikant. So thank you so much. We are so happy to help. Kasha, thank you for letting us know, Cloud Architect. Then we know you're here and you're paying attention. So realistically speaking, we love this. Anything we can do to help you. Quality good enough for everybody? Because if not, we're in the process of getting our system set up. We'll do anything we need. We want to make sure we have the perfect experience for people. Alonzo, Cloud Architect, my good friend. Gopal, Cloud Architect. Adieta, Cloud Architect, awesome. Sure, Kent, you're welcome. Kashif, you're welcome. Gopal, you're so happy to help. Kashif, you're more than welcome. Anything I could do to help out. Gopal, thank you so much. I got to tell you, next week there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming, and expect a lot more networking. Thank you, Mesafin. Expect a lot more training. Expect a lot more news, and expect a lot more fundamentals coming out there starting next week. And you're ready. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you all very soon. Chris from my team, prior to signing off, will provide a link to our training program along with the 20% coupon code. Chris from my team will invite you to how to get your first Cloud Architect job webinar, so you know exactly how to get hired. You're welcome, Natural Match, and thank you so much. Chris will invite you to the Cloud Architect Challenge because it's free. And don't forget, we've got completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Professional, and Advanced Networking under this course. So I'll stay on while Chris adds these things in case anybody has any last questions. And otherwise, we're super excited to be with you, talk to you today, and lots more is coming. Lots more is coming. So it's just an honor and a privilege on our part to be able to speak with you. I strongly can encourage people to work in these engineering or architecture roles. The cloud computing has one of the best careers moving forward. Cloud architects are a wonderful job. Cloud engineers are a wonderful job. Tech is a great place to be. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.